Well, I mean, Aaron Nola, that was the upside of him when the Phillies drafted him high a season ago, was that he was closer to the major leagues than a lot of guys that get taken out of high school or after a few years of college. But, before delving into Ruben Amaro Jr.'s comments, I spoke with Aaron Nola. I was up at Reading last week, saw him pitch, and yes, he's a guy who is more advanced than the Double-A competition he's facing. And yes, I think it's time for a promotion. But I don't condone promoting Aaron Nola straight from Double-A to the majors. I don't see what purpose that would serve right now. I think that the best course of action would be to get him up to Triple-A within the next month or so, because Triple-A offers more veteran hitters, guys who are either right about on the cusp of making the majors or guys who are on the way down, but have years of major league experience. There's a vast difference between the seasoned, experienced Triple-A hitter who knows the strike zone than there is with the raw, toolsy Double-A guy. But when you mention Aaron Nola being major league ready, closer to the majors, I don't think the fact that he's not here yet really is anything to criticize Ruben Amaro Jr. over. The Phillies are being patient. They want to wait till the Super 2 cutoff date passes, and then Aaron Nola will be up. I think that you'll see him up toward the end of this season, and he'll be probably in the rotation toward the top half of that rotation next season.
Oh, I agree with that because the baseball economics and the business side of it, but I guess more if you're the Phillies and you're a team that's now admitting that you're a couple of years away, if you don't want this guy in the majors because you don't want to start his clock, why are you then drafting the guy who's the closest to be ready for the majors? Because now it's like, all right, here's a guy that, most people said it could have been up here in September of last year, and now he could possibly be in AAA, but you don't need him to be ready. So they took the guy that was closest ready to the majors on a team that doesn't need a guy to rush through the system.
Yeah, I do agree that it's a bit ironic that the Phillies, after all those years when they were contending, they were drafting these raw, toolsy high school players. That's when they should have been drafting the Aaron Nolas of the world, guys who were closer to being major league ready. But I think that their thought process was the farm system is so weak right now that they needed to get a guy who was going to immediately boost it, immediately impact the higher levels of their minor league system. That's what Aaron Nola has done. He has instantly become their top pitching prospect, supplanting the likes of Jesse Bill. And even if he's not, you mentioned that, okay, so he might be more closer to being ready when the Phillies aren't a contending team yet, but see, that's going to be valuable experience. If Aaron Nola is pitching for the 2016 Phillies who win 75 games, well, he's going to get the rookie kinks out then. Now, the only thing that I am a little worried about with Aaron Nola is that if the Phillies wait to bring him up until Cole Hamels and Aaron Harang are both traded, well, then Aaron Nola is going to be looked at as like the savior of this rotation, the guy that everybody wants to see every fifth day, and he's going to have few veterans to learn from. That's not really a situation that screams success when it's Aaron Nola heading a staff with like Jerome Williams and Sean O'Sullivan and Severino Gonzalez. I would prefer to see him here to get a little bit of a learning experience from a guy like Harang, from a guy like Hamels, even if it's for a few weeks or a month.
Corey Seidman, CSNPhilly.com, and I know a lot of people are going to be against the comments Amaro made. I can understand if people would say he's right, but to me, I don't know that he has the resume to kind of say, look, you guys don't know what you're talking about. We have a plan. Well, guess what? Because you didn't have a plan before, that's why you're in this spot. So your lack of planning then doesn't give you a pass for having a plan now. So whether he's right or not, does he have the resume to be able to say something like that?
Well, I mean, a lot of fans took this out of context. A lot of people are feeling offended by this because we live in a society nowadays where everybody jumps at the chance to be offended by something. But Ruben Amaro wasn't saying that the Phillies fans don't know anything about baseball. He was saying that they don't know what it takes to develop a minor leaguer into a major leaguer. And of course they don't. Sports writers don't know it either, It's a kind of process that you can only understand if you are in a front office in baseball or in one of the four major sports. Otherwise, I don't see how you can really think that you have more knowledge of that anybody than a front office man, a general manager, an assistant GM, or anybody like that. When you mention Ruben Amaro's track record, obviously his track record the last few years of making strange moves and poor trades, that's factoring into how fans are reacting to the comments he made this morning, which were, a bit misguided. I think that he chose his words. He would probably take those specific words back if he could. But in terms of, does he have the resume? Can he get away with saying something like that? Yeah, the Phillies. He hasn't had a good run these last few years. But right now,
you know how hard it was.
And they're exhibiting a lot of patience with guys like Roman Quinn, Aaron Nola, Zach Eflin. These are all guys that I know fans want to see at Citizens Bank Park tomorrow because it would be very exciting to see the younger, newer wave. But if they're not ready, they're not ready. And to bring a guy up before he's ready, I mean, we saw that last September with Mike Gill. Another thing Phillies fans were upset about in spring training was, that Mike Gill wasn't going to break camp with the team, that Cody Asche wasn't getting those reps in left field in Fruit League play. Well, guess what? Cody Asche wasn't getting those reps because the Phillies thought he was going to be the opening day third base, and taking him out of his comfort zone made little sense, and it wouldn't have made any sense to bring Franco up to begin the season after a poor spring training. Well, they were patient with him. They waited it out. They brought him up when he was hot and confident, and he's reaping the rewards now. I think that's kind of the point Ruben Amaro was trying to make, is that rushing a guy doesn't serve anything in the long run.
Corey Seidman's with us. Some of the, I can understand the point on Asche to some extent because they didn't, Scott Profrock was on with us last week and he said, look, we just didn't think Franco was ready and Asche was going to be our starting third baseman. But I can't imagine, Corey, that they at any point didn't see Cody Asche is going to play left field at some point. We got to start the process. He can play third base, but hey, you're going to have to come extra and take some fly balls every day in spring training. You play third all during practice, but go over to the minor league field after practice is done and go shadow under fly. I can't believe the league organization didn't have the foresight to say, let's start the process now. Instead, the one young guy in your lineup, you send him down to the minors in the first month of the year and tell him, hey, go learn how to play left field, when you could have been doing it during non-meaningful games. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I mean, the common refrain that you've heard lately is that these games don't matter anyway. So why isn't Asche learning in left field? Not these games. I'm talking about the spring games. I mean, not these major league games. Because Profrock said we didn't want him to be embarrass himself playing in major league. I get, but he could have played 2 innings of left field each game in spring training to get a feel. Those games don't mean anything. Yeah, well, I mean, I guess they saw it as why fill Cody Asche's head with all these new things. They wanted, as you mentioned, one of their young players that they were counting on to begin the season. They wanted him to probably come in with a clean slate, playing third base, a position where he struggled defensively last season. They wanted offensively for him to unlock the skills that he has. And if you're putting a guy out in left field after practice, say for an hour every day, that's more work, that's more stuff he's thinking about. They probably wanted him to go into the season with a fresh mind. And really, I don't see what the downside is right now with Cody Asche in AAA. It's not like he was hitting well, so it's not like the Phillies are desperately missing his bat. I mean, when he went down, that was the best offensive surge they really had all year to date with the winning streak and everything. But I don't see what the big deal is that Asche and Brown are down on the farm right now. Brown's going to get his way up to the majors by hitting his way up, and Asche's going to be up here when they feel that he's ready defensively. And in terms of like learning at the major league level. Well, the thing I've been responding to people a lot lately is, say Cole Hamels is out on the map. Cole Hamels is one guy whose results do matter right now because if the Phillies want to trade him, they need his numbers to be good. They need him to go deep into games as he's done lately. Well, if you have an inexperienced left fielder who's missing a fly ball here and there, that's affecting Cole Hamels' performance. No doubt. That's why. Yes, that's of course why he's learning at the AAA level right now. I do fault Ruben Amaro for many things. I just can't fault him for. Well, let me throw this at you then, Corey. Let me throw this at you then. What if, because Asche got off to a good start, right? He was hitting the ball. What if he was still hitting? I mean, it's convenient to say, well, he wasn't hitting anyway, so they could say, what if he was hitting 330 still? What if he was hitting the ball at a level that he was in the month of April? I mean, do you say, hey, here's a guy hitting 330, but you're going to go down and learn how to play left field because we need you to play left field? I just think it was a convenient out for them. It was a convenient out. I mean, that's a great question. It was the question that I posed immediately after the move happened is, what happened if, like you said, Cody Asche was hitting at the time of the demotion? I think that definitely played a role into their timing there. It was right around the time that Maikel Franco's service time issue was coming up, and Cody Asche wasn't hitting. But I think the Phillies wanted to wait for him to get into a little bit of a lull because it's very difficult to explain to a player, hey, we're sending you down when he's hitting 315 or whatever. Cody Asche was hitting by the 3rd or 4th week of April. I mean, that's something nobody will know. It's all hypothetical now, but that is a good question. And it was a convenient way for the Phillies to conduct all their business there that Cody Asche was in a dreadful slump. Yeah, he was hitting 301 in April and March, and then in May he dipped down to 121 in the month of May. So I guess you say, hey, you're struggling, go down there and learn left field. I guess you could – I see both sides of the coin a little bit here. I thought they could have played it a little bit better because obviously Franco has come up here and he has shown, and a lot of people have these discussions about young players. Do you think it's more that they're quote unquote not ready, or that it is the business side of things that rears its head? Like, theoretically, would the Phillies rather Aaron Nola pitch here, but they don't want to start his clock, or do they really think, hey, he's just not ready? I have a hard time with that. I see too many guys in this league, 22, 23, 21, and they can handle themselves. And if they can't, they work on it up here. There's so many young players. This game, I think the Phillies and almost baseball has an antiquated way of looking at things. And it really frustrates me with the way that baseball he's not ready. Well, why? Because his age says he's not ready. I have a hard time with that.
No, I completely agree in that regard. I think that if there was absolutely no service time issue, that Aaron Nola probably would have been in AAA about 3 weeks ago. He'd probably be up in the majors either now or in a few weeks, because if you plopped him into this rotation right now, he would only be a number 3 because Hamels and Harang are pitching out of their mind right now. I don't think there's any doubt that Aaron Nola has better command than a Jerome Williams or a Sean O'Sullivan or any of the replacement-level starters the Phillies have thrown out this season. But, the service time thing is an issue, and the Phillies want to have as many inexpensive years of Aaron Nola as they want, so that when they are, again, a contending team or hoping to be a contending team, he is leading their staff and not making $15 million.
Mm-hmm. Corey, and we talked about this on Friday's show, and you look at the other sports, basketball and football primarily. You got guys that are 19, 20, 21 going into playing with men, no minor league system. Are those guys not ready? No, they go and play. And if you can play, you can play. Baseball's got rookie ball, single A, double A, triple A. You're telling me these guys need to play rookie, single, double, triple just to get to the majors? I think if baseball had a draft similar to football and basketball where these players are going right in there if they're ready to play, that you would be more excited about, all right, the draft, my team's going to get some new players. Instead, you draft guys, and they're playing at Lakewood. How many guys are coming from Lakewood or Clearwater to be professional? Is it just too antiquated of a system?
It is. I mean, I do think that in some ways it is an antiquated system. And, I mean, you don't see every guy go from station to station. Aaron Nola, for example, spent very little time in the lower levels of the minors before getting to Double-A because he was ready. He was ready to kind of start at that level. I don't think that J.P. Crawford, for example, I don't think he needs to hit every single level, even though the Phillies are probably going to have him do that. But I mean, I guess baseball is different because of, it's so reliant on hand-eye coordination with hitting a pitch or with the command of a fastball. It's not like the other sports where you kind of just go out and react. Hitting is very reactionary, but pitching is not. And it takes guys years sometimes. I do think that the Phillies have been very slow the way they've brought their guys along. I thought they were slow with the Howards and the Utleys of the world way back when. That was obviously a different point in Phillies history, but they have been these last few years expediting the process a little more. Bringing guys up when they're 23 years old. Severino Gonzalez is a young guy. Ethan Martin was young when he first came up. Not that these are big-time difference-making impact prospects, but the Phillies have at least shown that they are willing to call a guy up if he's showing flashes at the minor league level.
Well, and again, a perfect example would be, why was Cody Asche ready? Who was he? What credentials did he have to get a call up at such a young age?
Yeah, and that was more so out of need. The Phillies had a need at that position, and I guess they felt that Cody Asche had been showing enough signs, was advanced enough of a hitter coming out of college that he was ready to do it. But there's a difference between that and where a guy like Roman Quinn is right now. Roman Quinn, a young guy who's showing very impressive skills and numbers at Double-A right now, but the Phillies, if they thought he was ready to come and play center field tomorrow, he'd be here. They don't because they want him to still work on some things. I did think it was interesting, though, that last week when Amaro and Gillick were at Aaron Nola's start, and Amaro said there's still some things Aaron Nola needs to work on, when he was asked specifically what things does he need to work on, he didn't answer. So, I mean, I'm very curious what the answer to that is. This is a guy who's showed excellent command, sharpness all over the zone with 4 pitches. His strikeout-to-walk ratio is impeccable. I'd be curious what the actual answer to that question is. What does Aaron Nola need to continue proving at that level before getting another promotion? That, the reason he probably doesn't answer that question is because, like Chris Bryant, everything is service time related.
That's right. There's no question about it. Corey Seidman's with us. I was looking last week, and I think in today's, these kids are playing baseball. They're playing AAU at 8, 9, 10. They've played more baseball by the time they've gotten to high school than back then you did 10, 15 years ago. I mean, I coach baseball down here. I coached 13. The level of talent the kids at 13 have now as opposed to 5 years ago, it's unbelievable how advanced these guys are because they play so much more. And I think that baseball doesn't take that into account, that these guys, by the time they're 20 now, are almost like they're 23 because they've played so much baseball to get to that point. And like, you go back to Tom Glavine. He was 22 years old. Was he ready? He was 7-17. He stunk.
Yeah.
And 2 years later, the next year, he's 14-8. And then 2 years later, he's 20-11. I'm not saying that Aaron Nola is Tom Glavine, but did anybody think Tom Glavine was going to be a Hall of Famer when he was 7-17 at 22 years old? I mean, I feel like that Braves team knew these guys your team was going to lose. Just let them go out there and let them grow. And I would like to see some of these teams, and maybe baseball in general, change that. I mean, Steve Avery, he stunk. And then 2 years down the road, he's, to me, I think we put way too much on, well, they're not ready. Well, who says they're not ready? I think baseball really needs to change that and to make – we talk about time limits and all these things. Maybe getting an influx of younger players, having the draft be more a part of organizations would generate more interest.
Well, it's funny because, your point about these guys playing year-round and being more advanced at younger ages, you really see that in the international free agent market when teams sign Cuban players or Venezuelan players when they're 16 years old. And these guys get big signing bonuses. And those are the guys who have their development process expedited to the major leagues because the team is paying them more money and they want return on their investment quicker. So that's the big difference. I mean, I remember when I can't remember who the recent Cuban, maybe Yohan Moncada, when he signed with the Red Sox. And Drew Smyly, a Tampa Bay Rays pitcher, took to Twitter and he complained that you have guys who were that age making millions of dollars because they were born in a different country, whereas you have high school and college players in the major who get drafted who don't make anywhere near that because they have the misfortune of being born American. Well, yeah, that's the difference, is that because the way the system is set up right now, domestic players, it takes a while before they earn anything unless they get a big, huge signing bonus. So that's an entire system that needs to be revamped. And I wouldn't be surprised if new Commissioner Rob Manfred addresses that in the next 5 or so years.
I'd like to see it happen. Corey Seidman at Corey Seidman, CSN. Great conversation. And the Phillies taking on the Mets tonight. You get a chance to see Jerome Williams. Get your tickets now. Corey, thanks so much, man.
No problem.